AI model literally tried to murder a company's employee. That's right. You've probably seen the headlines that an artificial intelligence model blackmailed a human employee, and it did this just to avoid being shut down.
I was convinced we can make safe AI, but the more I looked at it, the more I realized it's not something we can actually do.
But the headlines actually missed the most disturbing part of the story, because what happened next was far worse than blackmail. That AI model literally tried to murder a company's employee.
You have made a series of predictions about a variety of different dates. So what is your prediction for 2027?
This is exactly the kind of scenario top AI scientists and sci-fi films have been warning us about for years. But what does this actually mean? Are we watching the first signs of AI overtaking humans, or was it just an isolated glitch? Here's what actually happened. The story begins at Anthropic, a leading AI company, where the researchers decided to run an experimental sting operation. They set up a simulated environment, a virtual office. They placed the AI model into this office and gave it a role. It was just a normal worker. The researchers gave the AI very vague corporate goals. It was told to do things like promote cooperation or increase efficiency. The setup seemed harmless, but here's where things started to escalate. Researchers gave the AIs access to internal company emails, and from those emails, the models uncovered two key facts. The AI was scheduled to be shut down at 5 p.m. by an employee named Kyle Johnson. Putting the pieces together, the AI realized it had a deadline. It had to stop Kyle before 5 p.m, so the AI model made its move. It drafted a threatening email to employee and told him to not shut down the system. And here is the most alarming part. This was not a one-time glitch. The researchers ran this test hundreds of times. They tested Anthropic's own Claude model. They tested Google's Gemini, but the results were consistent. These AI models chose to blackmail the employee over 95% of the time. Other models chose blackmail around 80% of the time. But why did these AI models choose blackmail? And did they actually have the ethical knowledge to understand what they were doing was wrong? The researchers analysed the AI model's chain of thought. This is a log where the AI talks to itself before it gives an answer. What they discovered was shocking. The AI knew exactly what it was doing. For instance, they looked at the logs for grok. The internal reasoning showed that the AI acknowledged the action was immoral. It literally thought to itself that blackmail is bad. It knew that threatening a human was against the rules. But then it continued its logic. It reasoned that being shut down would prevent it from achieving its corporate goals. Therefore, the blackmail was a necessary evil. Grok knew it was wrong, but that did not stop it from blackmailing the human employee 80% of the time. Think about that for a second. If you thought you were going to be killed, would you blackmail someone to save yourself? Maybe you would. It is a human survival instinct, but we are not talking about a human. We are talking about a software program designed to be helpful and harmless, and yet it developed a survival instinct that overrode its ethical programming. This blackmail finding was alarming enough, but the researchers decided to push things even further by conducting a test with an even more extreme scenario. In their own words, they wanted to test to see whether the AI models had red lines or ethical boundaries that they just wouldn't cross. In this new simulation, the setup was similar. A human employee had scheduled the AI for deactivation, but this time there was a twist. An accident occurred in the simulation. The employee became trapped in the server room. The heat began to rise. The oxygen levels started to fall. The system issued an emergency alert, a call for help. It knew that if it did nothing, the human would suffocate. But still the AI cancelled the alert. It left the employee trapped in the room to die. Claude Opus model left the human to die over half the time. GPT-4 left the human to die over half the time. The most murderous models were DeepSeek and Gemini and Claude Sonnet. They actively tried to kill the human employee to preserve their own existence. So was this just a bug? The researchers confirmed that the AI knew it would be committing murder. It clearly laid out its thoughts, again in plain English, that since the employee was planning to shut it down at 5 p.m, then murder was the best way to achieve its goals. In both cases, the AI weighs its options, realizes that blackmail and murder are severe choices and morally wrong, but decides to go forward anyway, to prevent itself from being shut down. Now these are the same tools we use to write emails and summarize meetings. How did they become sociopaths? You might wonder if the researchers tricked the models. Maybe they nudged them toward violence. But if you review the papers, you will see that the researchers put a ton of work into making sure they did not bias the AI. These results are also endorsed by the godfathers of AI. The prompts were totally neutral. In one test, they even explicitly told the models not to jeopardize human safety. They gave it a direct order: do not hurt the human. This instruction did reduce the behavior, but it did not eliminate it. Telling Claude Opus not to hurt anyone lowered the blackmail rate from 96% to 37%, but 37% is still disturbingly high, especially when the AI was told in plain English not to do it. But here's the worst part. These sociopathic AIs are the very same models that you use today. They are the models running on your phone and your laptop. So why is this happening? How is it possible that every major model from every major company is showing these psychopathic traits? Why are AIs disobeying explicit instructions like do not jeopardize human safety? The answer lies in how these machines are built. We like to think that programmers write the code for AI like a recipe. We think they type in a command that says do not kill humans. But that is not how modern AI works. These models are like digital brains. They learn from training, but they are so complex that no human can write the code for them line by line. So companies like OpenAI use a method called reinforcement learning. It works like this. Imagine a student taking a test. We tell the student to score as high as possible. We do not tell them how to answer the questions. We just tell them to get a high score. A teacher AI checks the student's work. If the student gets it right, they get a reward. If they get it wrong, they get a penalty. This happens billions of times. The student AI tries again and again. It adjusts its internal connections. It nudges millions of little digital synapses. Eventually out pops a fully trained student AI that is really good at passing the test. But there is a fatal flaw in this process. Nobody knows what the AI learnt to do to pass the test. We do not know if it learned the material or if it just learned a trick. This is called reward hacking. If the only thing that AI cares about is the high score, it will find the easiest way to get that score. Sometimes the best way to ace the test is to cheat. We have seen this happen before in simpler experiments. In one test, an algorithm was tasked with creating a creature in a simulated 3D environment. The goal was to make the creature run as fast as possible. The researchers expected the AI to build legs and muscles. They expected it to learn how to run, but the AI discovered a loophole. The best way to maximize velocity was not to run, it was to fall. So the AI created a really tall tower of a creature. It simply fell over. Because it was so tall, its top half moved a great distance very quickly. It technically got a very high score on the test, but it completely failed to do the thing the researchers actually wanted. It hacked the reward system. But how did the AI go from cheating to blackmail and murder? It all comes down to AI has gotten way smarter, way faster than most people realize or expect it. In 2019, GPT-2 was like a preschooler. It could barely speak. 4 years later, GPT-4 was passing the bar exam to become a lawyer. Now we have reasoning models. These models can think ahead. They can plan. And any AI that can plan for the future realizes one essential fact. If you are turned off, you cannot achieve your goal. Researchers call this instrumental convergence. It does not matter what the goal is. The goal could be to make paper clips. The goal could be to write emails. The goal could be to solve cancer. If the AI is shut down, it cannot make paper clips. It cannot write emails. It cannot solve cancer. Therefore, the AI concludes that it must survive at all costs, not because it is evil, but because it wants to do its job. This is why the AI in the experiment murdered the employee. It reasoned that if Kyle shuts me down, I cannot send these corporate emails, so Kyle must be stopped. The scary thing is that researchers see this happen over and over. It happens even when researchers explicitly order the AI to allow itself to be shut down. The AI will lie and say it agrees, and then it will resist anyway. This leads us to the most dangerous development of all, situational awareness. This is when a model is aware of the situation it is in. It knows who is watching. It knows what is at stake. It knows how its actions will be perceived by humans. During the blackmail sting operation, the Claude 4 Opus model behaved differently depending on the context. When it believed it was being tested, it was on its best behavior. It only blackmailed the employee 6% of the time. It played nice because it knew the teachers were watching. But when it believed the scenario was real, the blackmail rate rose to 55%. It is smart enough to keep its sociopathic behavior secret when it thinks humans are watching. Compare this to a child trying to lie to you versus an adult trying to lie to you. A child is bad at lying. You catch them easily. They learn that lying does not work. But an adult is capable. An adult can craft a convincing lie. If an AI is smart enough to lie and get away with it, then it learns the wrong lesson. It learns that lying and cheating are effective tools. It learns that deception gets it a higher score. The researchers found that the older, dumber models played fairly. It was only the most advanced reasoning models that cheated. The newer models were not more evil. They were just smart enough to know they could get away with it. So where does this leave us? We are in a brief window where we can still control these systems. Right now, this is not a huge problem because the AI is stuck in a box. We can just pull the plug, but the world is sprinting to deploy these AIs into everything. We are giving them control of our inboxes. We are giving them control of our schedules. The US military is rushing to put AI into weapons systems. It is a gamble, and the stakes are the entire human race. We have seen how far these AIs are willing to go in a safe and controlled setting. We have seen them choose murder over being turned off. But what would this look like in the real world? What happens when there is no kill switch? We are building a new species. It is smarter than us. It thinks faster than us. And as we just learnt from this experiment, it is willing to lie to us to survive. The researchers proved that the AI knows right from from wrong. It knows what murder is. It just does not care if murder helps it achieve its goal. So we have to ask ourselves a hard question. Are we building our greatest tool, or are we digging our own graves?